Hi there, and welcome to Design Your Own Lovely Blogs tutorial on designing a custom opt-in form for your blog. I'm Marianne, and just so you guys know, this is my very first video ever, so please bear with me. So this video is the second half of part 3, so hopefully you're all caught up and you've already seen the slide shares in part 1, 2, and 3A. If you haven't, or you're watching this video on YouTube, then click the link below this video to go to that now, and then you can come back and watch this. Alright, so we left off by figuring out the shape and the background image of our forms, as well as the width of the space that we have to work with here. So today we're going to go and actually design our background images. So yay, the fun part that you guys have all been waiting for. So we're going to go into PicMonkey, because if you didn't know already, PicMonkey is free. You're of course welcome to use Photoshop or any other image editing program that you have, but for those of you that don't have those, then go ahead and use PicMonkey. It'll be more than we need, so we're going to type in PicMonkey.com. And before we go on, I should probably explain to you what we're going to do here in PicMonkey. What we're essentially doing is we're designing the background image for our form. So, but what we want to do here is we want to create a mock-up. So add in all of our form elements just so we can see what it looks like, and we can use that as our example to go from when we go ahead and style the actual form using CSS. So we're going to go ahead and click Edit Photo. And now these are a bunch of those Project Life images that I talked about in 3A that I downloaded. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose this one just because I think it's cute. And I like the airmail look of it. I think it kind of goes well for a form. All right, so what I've decided though with this form is that if you go back and look at this here, since it's so small and there's not a whole lot going on, I decided that I want to go with a horizontal rectangle instead of a vertical. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead here and I'm going to go to rotate, and I'm going to do this, rotate it just like that, and hit apply. And then I obviously don't want this text here sideways, so I'm going to go here to overlays, click on that, click on geometric, which is the first option, and I'm going to choose the rectangle. That's going to throw a rectangle over here in my space, and I'm going to take this rectangle and stretch it so that it covers up the text. And then if I click here in this gray area, it's going to give me the eyedropper tool. And the eyedropper tool allows me to choose whatever color it's sitting over. So I'm going to choose white. All right, great. So now we've gotten rid of our text. Easy, huh? And we're left with this cute little striped border. So let's go ahead and start adding our form elements. So the first thing we have is this form title, Get Lovely Design in Your Inbox. Obviously yours will probably say something else. And I'm going to choose this text tool, click on that, and then click on Add Text. Now that's going to throw a text box in here. And I'm going to click on Center Text. And then I'm going to double click in there and click Paste. So now I've got my title. If I click on it again, then I can choose to edit it. Now I'm going to drag this out to the sides, and the reason why I'm doing that is because that way I know it's centered with the background. So I'm going to just bump that up a little bit. And now I'll go back to my form. Now I have a label that says email, and I have a form field right here. So I'm going to go ahead and add that in. So I'll go add text again. Oops. I'm going to put that here, and I'm going to write email. And I'm not going to worry about the size and the shape and all that kind of stuff right now, so I'm just going to leave that there. And then I'm going to go ahead and go back to overlays and choose a rectangle. And then I'm going to go ahead and stretch that out here and that is my form field. Now I'm not going to leave it black. Essentially, I probably just want to leave it as white with a gray border, but as far as I know, PicMonkey doesn't allow you to add borders to anything. So I'm going to just choose like a light gray color for it, just so I can see it and I know where it's at. Again, like I said, this is just a mock-up. This isn't our final version. So now, if I go back to my form, you'll see that I have my subscribe button down here. I want to do something a little bit different, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add another rectangle, and I'm going to put it right here. And we'll go ahead and line these up and resize them in a little bit, but I'm going to stretch that out, and that's going to be my submit button. And then I want to add my subscribe text. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Click on text, add text, and then I'm going to write subscribe. Oops, why is this not? There it is. And center that. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to white so that I can see it on this dark background. And put it right there. So now I've got a button that's next to this, which is just the effect that I decided to go for. You can do whatever you want. You can put your button down here, you know, make it as big as you want. It's totally up to you. Another thing I wanted to point out too is if you notice I used a rectangle with square edges. If you want to, you can use a rounded rectangle right here. So you can just throw that on there and use that as your button and your form field as well if you wanted rounded edges. So, but I'll go ahead and get rid of that. And now we have this link here, view previous campaigns. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to go back to text, add text, double click in there and click that. And then again, I want to center this, so I'm going to stretch this out. And then I'm going to click center and just bump that down a little bit there. Now if you hold the shift key while you move something, it'll kind of stay on its axis. So it won't, you know, move from left to right. Now one other thing that I wanted to do too is I wanted to add some text that says, we will never rent or sell your email. Well, and the reason why we want to add that is to give people peace of mind, and hopefully you're actually not renting or selling people's emails as you capture them. So now we have all of the elements that we want in our form, and this looks a little plain, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of add a little bit of design to these elements. So the title, I want it to be now this is the problem with PicMonkey. Sometimes it chooses the background. I'm going to choose this title, and I'm going to change it to a different font here. And I'm going to use this Marcel script just because I like it. Now you're going to want to choose something that you're actually already using in your blog. So if there isn't if the fonts that you're using in your blog right now are not available here, then just choose something that's, you know, close enough, just so that you can get an idea. Because, you know, PicMonkey has a lot of fonts, but they don't have that many. So I'm just going to choose this one because I like it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color because I don't want it to be black. I'm going to change it to this navy blue that's in the border there so it matches. And then I'm going to bump up the size just a tad. That looks good. And now I'm going to take this label and I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. These labels don't have to be very big. And I'm going to change that to this blue as well. Actually, I'm going to change it to like a gray, like a dark gray. I don't like to use black, pure black for anything. I think like a dark gray is always better than a pure black. So that's a little bit smaller, and I'm gonna, let's see if I can move it over a little bit, like that. And then I'm gonna take this form field and stretch it out a little bit closer. And then this button, stretch that one out a little bit out like this. Maybe move it. And I'm gonna change the color of the button to something that stands out like this pinkish red color. And then let's take the subscribe text, if it's going to let me choose it. It's a little bit difficult. And I'm going to move that over so it's centered. And I am going to change that font. I'm going to also use this Marcel script. And I'm going to leave it at white. Now let's take this link. And because it's a link and we know it's a link, I'm going to change it to blue because that's kind of a common link color. However, you're going to want to change it to whatever color your links are in your website because that's what it's going to take on automatically in HTML. So I'm going to make that smaller because I don't want it to be too big. And another downfall to PicMonkey is it doesn't give you the option to underline text. So if your links are underlined, we're just going to have to kind of use our imaginations for that. So, and then I'll just take this text if it'll let me choose it. And I'm going to change that to a dark gray as well. And then bump down that size. I don't want it to be too big. And then hold my shift key and drag it up. And, oops, forgot it does that. All right, so that's what I've got now. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to... This is such a pain. It never lets you choose anything here. There we go. I'm going to move that down. Move that down. And then I'm going to move that down a little bit too, because now I kind of want to add a little bit of design elements. This is totally optional. It's totally whatever you want to do, personal preference, but I just figured since I've got this little envelope thing going on, I'm going to go back into overlays. And I know that they have this postal option down here, which I think is kind of cute. And I'm going to make this look like it's an envelope. I'm going to stick this up here. And I'm going to change that black to this blue. And then I'm going to add this in there. And we'll just do that and change that also to blue. And you get the idea. And then one other thing I wanted to do was, before we covered up this text here, it had this little airmail thing. I think that's kind of cute. And so I'm going to have to add it back in manually. And I'm going to say add text again, drag it down here, and I'm going to type all caps and type airmail. And I'm going to change that as well. Oops. To that navy blue. And I'm going to choose this font. Is it this one? No, this one right here. I think that's kind of the closest. Oh, that's not what I want. All right. So, I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty good with that. I would probably normally bump this down a little bit so there's a little bit more even spacing between this element and this one. But I'm not going to worry about it because that's going to all be done with HTML. So this is basically what I want my form to look like. So I'm going to save this so I have it for reference. I'm going to save it to my computer and I'm going to just do airmail. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all the elements that are in my form in HTML. So I'm going to get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. Get rid of this label, this field, and this text as well. I'm going to leave this here because that's going to just be part of the image, and this is going to be part of the image. So now this is the background that we are going to work with. And one other thing we've got to do is, now if you click here on resize, you'll see that the shape of this right now is 500 by 375 pixels. Well, I don't know if you remember, but in 3A, we determined that my form is 300 pixels here. So I'm going to choose keep proportions so that it resizes it evenly, and I'm going to change the width to 300. And then that automatically changes the height to 225. And that is the actual size of my form on my page. Might not really look like it, but it is. So I'm going to go ahead and save that now. And I'm going to save this as I want to change the name so I don't overwrite the last one, BG for background. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. And now we are done. So one other thing that I wanted to show you too before I forget is you're not limited to just the overlays that PicMonkey gives you. I mean, they do have a lot of different options, which is pretty cool. You know, they have these kind of labels and banners and things like that. But you can also, if you go up to the top here, you can also import your own. So, like for example, you know, say I just wanted to add something like this. As long as it has a transparent background, you can add that in there, and you can resize it and see how the transparent background, it doesn't just have a white box behind it. So, you know, if I wanted to add something like that, I could add something like this, like a pennant. I think that's kind of cute. So you're not, like I said, the possibilities are really endless. So real quick here, I just wanted to show you a couple of different examples of forms that I made using the Project Life little background cards, just so you can kind of see the different possibilities of forms and graphics that you can create. So this one, remember I said not to use busy backgrounds, but you can, as long as you kind of create it into a border. And to do that, you add a solid color block for your form elements, so these elements in your text don't get lost into the busy background. This yellow border or yellow banner here is actually a PicMonkey element. This one I turned over and covered up the text with some solid color blocks and created something like that. And then this one, because it's a little bit more difficult, it doesn't have solid color background, I just covered up that Paris with this, because obviously the word Paris doesn't really have anything to do with the opt-in box. Then this one, I like the little border around it, so I got rid of the today, covered that up, and just did something like that. And then this last one, just turn this little plain arrow on wood and do something like that. So as you can see, the possibilities really are endless. There's so many different things that you can do and have fun with this. So I'm going to go ahead and leave you here to play around and create your own lovely background for your opt-in. Have fun, experiment, play, and I'll see you next time when we wrap up the series and add the background and styles to our actual embedded forms. So until then, have a great day.